Welcome to the 2-Month Review, the weekly podcast brought to you by Open Letter and 3%, in which we take a giant book, treat it like an 8-course meal, take each bite each week, savor it, feel that mouthfeel, determine its spiciness level and quality of craftsmanship, and discuss it. This season, we're digesting Same Bed, Different Dreams by Ed Park. And I'm Chet Bose from Open Letter Books, joined as always by Brian Wood, author of Joytime Killbox. How you doing, man?
Oh, it's unctuous. Yeah, that was a very that was a palatable introduction. I got to tell you though, so I've just been like very sensitive to anything Korean while reading this book, and I've been like binging Food Network for some reason. It's actually for research, like Food Network and HGTV. I've been watching a bunch of it, but I've noticed anytime they have one of those shows like Chopped or Guys Grocery Games or something, and
I saw that for the first time.
Okay. We used to have Supermarket Sweep. Remember Supermarket Sweep?
100%.
Yeah, it's basically that meets
that Iron Chef.
Yeah, it meets the horrific hellhole that is the Food Network. But anytime they do anything Korean, and there's any dish where it's like you have to choose the flavors of Korea, every single time there's apparently Korean food is only 3 things. It's kimchi, short ribs, and gochujang. I don't know if I'm saying that correct, but the fermented chili paste.
I thought it was jang, but I don't know.
Gochujang, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's all 100% of all of Korean food is only those 3 items, because I have probably watched 30, 40 of these shows, and anytime anything Korean, those 3 things.
Missed out. So you missed out. There was a special dinner for Juan Gomez Barcena and Katie Winnemore that you were invited to at the house, and I made a full-scale Korean thing. I'm not trying to appropriate shit here, by the way. Just making clear, I really like.
You already canceled. Forget it. You already did it.
Too late, dude. If people could read my notes, but I made that, and there is more that is possible than that, including this one side salad with cucumber and this very special red pepper seasoning that I have a huge amount of, which I can
kimchi. You just make kimchi. Yeah. That's all there is. That's all there is.
I had a Korean barbecue chicken sandwich here the other night. Not so great. It was okay, but I will attest to, this is a plug for a place here. There is what the hell is it called? It's like Provisions, and they are a pop-up restaurant here that's near River Falls, Wisconsin. And in Hudson, they, on every Wednesday at this one bar, they have a pop-up for smash burgers, and sometimes a different sandwich, but generally just smash burgers. And that's all they serve from 4:30 till they run out, and they run out by like 6:30 generally. The best hamburger I've ever had in my life. Since having that, I do not want another hamburger. I do want nothing else. Nothing will compare. It's ruined hamburgers for me in every way. Like, I have no interest, because it was just so good. It's so good.
What makes it so good? Like, a smash burger is a smash burger.
Smash burger is a smash burger. I'm not sure what they do to it, but it won the award for like the best hamburger in Minneapolis, and it is succulent. It is succulent. And I think part of it is the way that they have their onions, but they have some seasoning in some way that it's just like the juiciest, most satisfying. And they have a sauce that I don't know what it is. I couldn't figure it out. But it is just juicy, delicious, amazing. And like, people line up for it. Like, you have to get there early. Like, we get there at 4:30, and like the whole bar is already like, there's no seats and all the orders are in.
Yeah. Speaking of appropriation, I found out though on one of these Battle Korea shows or whatever that what's popular, what the person said, so I'm just taking someone's word for it. In Korea, they've appropriated American cheese and basically Sprite, like lemon lime soda. Those are very popular items over there now. So it's like, I'm glad that United States has contributed processed cheese and lemon lime soda. That's our gift to the world.
You watch a lot of that for research. I watch a lot of like chef reaction videos on Instagram and these other ones where they have people, they talk over someone's video making some fucking horrific weird ass shit. And I do that for research for this podcast. But those I'm addicted to, and there's several I've seen in which someone will take American cheese and like put it, they're always these dump and bake casserole bullshit, like, and they'll put like the cheese, lay it out on there and then unwrap it each time. The other thing I've seen the most of that I find absolutely disgusting.
Isn't there one where somebody just waits, they have a timer until cream cheese gets dumped into something?
That motherfucking cream cheese thing is annoying.
Yeah, it's like, and here's a block of cream cheese. There it is.
There it is. Every time the cream cheese. I hate it so much.
How do we segue culinary adventures into this section that we're reading?
Because one of the characters, Claire, meets up with Daisy meets up with this guy that she meets at a Korean restaurant because she gets hungry late at night and goes to a Korean restaurant and they eat a bunch of hot soup.
Yeah, no, she got short ribs and kimchi.
Gochujang sauce. Bibimbap's in there too. You got to work that one in.
Gochujang sauce, because that's all there is. There's nothing else. Nothing else possible.
Dude, it is going to being in Korea. I could segue in a different way. Being in Korea with Will Evans and Ross Ufberg years ago, the culinary adventures were gigantic and amazing. Yeah. But the Will is a vegan, and that was enormously problematic. Like that book, The Vegetarian, about by Han Kang, about the woman who tries to be vegetarian, blah blah, and they are all like, "What the fuck's wrong with you?" It is insane. Like there was no way to get anything that was like a normal or like would fit into that. It was almost impossible. We ended up at a place like where they had like the hot pot, and they're showing us, they're trying to demonstrate without speaking any English how we were doing everything wrong and how you're supposed to make it. It was pretty fun. And they're like shoving meat into Will's face because they wouldn't.
I don't think this is a very controversial take, but I think like being a vegan in America is kind of like being a Christian in the USSR. Just do it in secret. Okay. Yeah. It's kind of not allowed. And if you have to do it, just be careful. Like the Gestapo's out to get you. Like,
dude, the time that I was trying to make a dinner and someone was like, you can't use butter. You have to use vegan butter. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. You're not eating then.
I'm not making you your own little secret book club and hope you don't get caught because you're probably going to get thrown in jail. You're like, there you go.
It's so insane. So anyways, outside of the food stuff,
this is the Daisy section, right?
What's that?
This is the Daisy section.
Well, there's two sections today. The first one is, it's a very short number of pages that we read because of how it breaks up later on. But the two that we read were 2333, Interview with the Mirror, 2001 through 1983, which is an interesting way to frame that. And then 2033, Amsterdam in the 80s, 2009. And this is more of that like building in, it builds in. So we talk about it as connections in the past, but it's really like building in a backstory to that first dinner. Like all of these pieces build in former connections and prior information that we did not know of when Soon walked into the party that he doesn't even necessarily know of. And where all those things like come to bear. It almost makes like the idea of rereading that party, although I don't think that there's anything within the party that really like sums up these pieces, but it would have a wholly different context where we're introduced to all these characters, but now we know like other pieces to their story. So this one is Loa Deng mainly, who is on the day before September 11th, by the way, writes a letter to Tanner Slow, also at the party, because she was an intern at Gloat, and her job was to go through all of the archives that were from Parker Jotter that Coreware Games had bought, the thing that we read like last week. Yeah. And then Gloat acquired them. And these were ones that she went through looking for the sixth book. Also, her intern boss, who was a teenager, was Mercy Pang, who is Jotter's granddaughter and was also the one from the previous section. She doesn't show up here, except she does laugh at one point in time. And she is the one that like she seems so deadly serious at various points in the past section. Plus, she's referred to as never being photographed. but yeah, this part. So she is doing that, goes down this rabbit hole. Her roommate is Daisy O, who we're going to get in the next section as well, who's also part of the dinner because she was the translator of Echo's book. All that's there. And this is a series of interviews with Dr. Inky Sin, who was Jodder's psychiatrist, right? Psychiatrist or just
after the stabbing.
Just doctor after the stabbing. His psychiatrist had a fucked up name too, though. But from two people about Koreans that made it in America, and it's a series of for some project, but there's no real answer to what that project is, and there's no real clear through line on like what the point of these interviews were.
No, not clear. What I do find interesting going back to this now after reading it is we'll talk about it later, but she gets this mysterious thumb drive, right? And there's this kind of like, how do we open it? How can we be sure there's not malware? And we see here, it says viruses, none.
Oh, on the start, yeah. Daisy is the one who Daisy gets the thumb drive.
Yeah, I know. I thought it's interesting that there was that later on. There's that question of is the information contaminated or not? And then here, I just like breezed over that, didn't even pay attention to that first time I read it. But
yeah, I also like importance low.
Importance low. When it says attachment, IWAM.
What does that stand for? I couldn't figure that
out. Because there's always like this gamesmanship. There's this gamesmanship that keeps going on, and we'll get to it later as well.
Duh, it's so stupid. Interview with a mirror.
Interview with a mirror. Done. Duh. All right. Circle gets the square. Yeah, like everything has like these, like, kind of silly. Like the network is numb alums, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Pecan
or pecan, depending on where you're from.
No, you cannot say pecan. It's not allowed.
Nobody doubts the Sprout is the vegan restaurant that everyone wants.
Penumbra College Alumni Network. My family always said pecan is what Grandpa keeps next to the bed. You want a pecan. All right. So that's, I remember the correct.
Having lived in the South for some years, they every single fucking thing I said was wrong.
Well, they're right.
Yeah, they're
clearly right.
They've clearly set the bar high for cultural standards.
So yeah, what did you think of this? This 20. This is a very different 2333 section than the other ones we've had. With the transcript action, did you?
I thought it was interesting because it is part of the, like, fills in a little bit of a blank with Loa, but more importantly in her connection. But more importantly, I think it's interesting that it is going back into his fooling around with different forms. So the interview form hasn't been in here, and it is another one that somewhat has a bit of the here's the story of Korea and the Korean War for anyone who doesn't know it. And that description, like being able to put it into the interview in this way, is less pedantic or less pedantic's not the word I'm looking for, but less heavy-handed than like trying to describe like essentially what it was like being caught in that middle zone. Since Dr. Inky Sin is born in a town that is now part of the DMZ, there's the information about like the war happens. His dad is off in Manchuria. That gets excised. Everything, like his life gets it's so awful in so many ways, and like being raised in the way that he was, and like the just general setting is melodramatic. And rather than making it like a short story to be like, here's what this was like for people, this is kind of the condensed version of a traditional Korean book about that time, like The Soil. From what I know about The Soil, I've not read it, it's super long, but that's kind of covering like all the ins and outs of like how this played out, but focusing on one human that gets to tell you the story of like what they lived through. That I think is a better way to present this information and to ground anyone who's not already familiar with some parts of the Korean War aspect.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. Like I don't want to rush to judgment on it, but I don't know. It just felt. I love the way that the dreams function in giving that information. I didn't like the way this functioned as much.
The dreams get so hard for me with like all the names, keeping them straight.
Yeah, but I like the format of like we're the book inside the book, like that tool, that device worked for me. The email and then the transcript, it just felt a little clunky. Clunky is maybe not the right word. It just felt I don't know. I saw the gamesmanship a little bit more, and it felt more like the author having fun and doing a game, more so than like the essential to the telling of the story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the part that like there's a couple things that tie in, like
it doesn't flow as naturally as like jumping back and forth between the dreams, the echo parts, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think
for me, and again, I don't know. I might change my mind on it when I finish the book, but my initial reaction was like, "Oh, okay, we're going to switch gears and do this exercise." It just felt more like an exercise than it did like flowing naturally into the prose.
Here's a couple things to hand. One, who do you think's interviewing him?
Oh, that's a very good question. I'm not sure.
I think that might be kind of, and I don't know, but that might be relevant. The other things that are relevant that we have seen or have not seen, one of them is that his name, because they were forced to have Japanese names, is Taro Sujimoto. That has come up before, and that will come up again. Yeah. And planting it here is useful. The other like sly reference to what we did just last week is the Huarjiri, that's where they lived. That's where that fireball UFO thing happened. In the dreams bit, just to make those two connections clear for anyone listening. I did get a text message about like how making some of these connections clear is helping anyone who read the book even in the past. Since it's hard to keep track of everything and where everything is moving. Those two I think are key. And then the part with like that he's part of like sees Syngman Rhee and Kim Jong-il. I got the right Kim Jong. Or Kim Il-sung at that party, and then is announced that he's going to be the future president of the Korean Provisional Government, and has his left tip of his finger removed, just puts him back in line with everyone else, but also points to that possibility, the ongoing possibility that there is some like nefarious cabal that is directing things that leads to Inky Sin being the doctor of Parker Jotter, who is also missing the finger, also part of the KPG, also connected there. And what if these people were the Coreware people?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. So our only kind of clues that we have is on page 345. It says, Dr. Sin speaks to an interviewer, mainly in English, sprinkled with Korean. Daisy helped me here too. The quote, project she refers to has not appeared, nor could I find any evidence that it ever existed. Was she there under false pretenses, some kind of con job? Anything's possible. And then it's the very first question in session 1. Good morning. Thank you for meeting me. My assistant is here to make sure the light and volume are right. He won't interrupt. So we've got a lady and a dude, and who knows, because genders have been swapped before, right?
Right.
Although
this is a videotape.
Yeah, it's part of a project. I'm helping out a friend who's compiling the stories of Koreans who have made a name for themselves in America.
I also think the videotape thing is key in the sense that like the next chapter is the thumb drive. So like like the videotape being like, where is information about these things stored in a world in which everything is virtual? Here's a VCR that she had to bring home and play. It's here 2001. I assume that I did have a VCR player still in 2001. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah, totally. Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know. And it kind of makes me think of, you know, when Jotter's daughter is meeting with those, you know, with the gaming people. Like it has the same feel, right? I don't know if there's a con job going on or what's going on, or like even a gaming company, or, you know, something's at play. And this
Core War is an interesting name for a gaming company too.
Yeah.
Loaded name. But that's why I wonder, like, this book has function as in some levels as historical fiction. Where is that history stored? Like, where are the like she goes through Parker Jotter's archives and finds this on a VCR tape. Whereas in the next chapter, Daisy finds that thumb drive, or gets the thumb drive. And then she finds our book that we're reading, Same Bed, Different Dreams, the dreams part.
Yeah.
in there, I assume. But the like where the history is stored and where it is found is like librarian's wet dream, but also like raises questions over like the all-consuming nature of the internet and like where these stories are heard. The fact that like if you want to make a like a political point about it, even like his story, even though it does veer off into this like sort of dreamland surrealness of the finger cutting and that party, the base part of it, like where would that be told? It's not online. It's not like in different places. It's in this like conversation. But I lean towards the people being like affiliated with the Core War stuff, but I don't know where it goes. I don't know where that goes. Like, why would they?
Well, we do know the assistant loves gambling, apparently. So.
Loves gambling. Like he is 20 years too early where he has to actually go to the track instead of just MGM betting it. But
he's over at Batavia Downs on the ponies.
Here's Downs. Those commercials are amazing, by the way. For anyone who lives in Western New York, the Batavia Downs commercials are something else. That place is like family friendly, but in the way that like it's a 1970s dank ass looking, like sweaty cigarette filled joint, and their commercials emphasize both of those things at the same time in a wonderful way.
So I think an interesting thing to point out within this interview section, and so we already covered one where like, is this some sort of con job? Are they there under false pretenses? I'm not sure who these people are. And then on 350, at the end of that long answer to the question, did your father remarry? He talks about his name, Taro Sugimoto. Had a new name, Home Mother. Sometimes I didn't know exactly who I was. And then just a little bit later in 357, session number 7. What's wrong? We look alike. You've noticed. It's like an interview with a mirror. So like it's this idea of, again, the doubling, the uncertainty, the lack of identity. We see that take place and echoed through this piece in a couple different spots. So I thought that was really well done.
There's also the transformation of Hannah's name to Hannah.
Yeah, changing with the H-A-N-A to Hannah. Yeah.
As another transformation. It's interesting. I enjoyed reading this. I don't know how to make it completely fit at the moment through everything that we've read, except in those ways that we just talked about. But overall, I find it like a nice break.
The two things I'm curious to see if they pop up. One is the idea of tattoos.
Yeah.
Because it's mentioned of the one person having a tattoo. They believe it was of a Korean flag. There's footnotes on that. And then later it talks about Koreans not being allowed to have tattoos unless you were like more of the Japanese persuasion and are part of a gang. And then the other one saying I could never get tattoos, and the other person having. So we see like tattoos strung along in these sections that we read.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one,
another identity. That's an identity thing too.
Yeah.
Like, who is it that? Is it the woman that's her rival that has all the tattoos? Well, no, it's Melanie, or whatever.
But like terrible. It's like a Union Jack flag when you're like 1/8 British, and then there's like a Chinese character for serenity, and then like
I'm getting the Canadian flag just right across.
All right, whatever. What are you going to get?
1/4, 1/8, whatever. Fuck it, man, go. Like all those and all the Chinese characters. Those are, and the fact that these ones are real words, or she indicates as such, is funny. But it is like one of those things that's like very identity building for people, and like self-chose instead of having it forced on you. So there's that tension between Taro choosing Moto or whatever, Moto, and Moto. And the idea of tattooing what you want on your body, being nationalistic with the Korean flag, but they don't. The Union Jack one is sort of like made fun of.
I love this footnote too on page 354 at the bottom. It says, I could not find any current reference to this institution. It might no longer exist. or Hing Yong might be an alias for a different college. Daisy, who can't keep her nose out of my things, guesses that Dr. Sin might be protecting any family or old acquaintances still in Korea.
Daisy's got an interesting role. So this is between, so this happens in 2001. And then Daisy in 2009 is her section at Gazebo.
Yeah.
This is like she's younger then and is starting to down this path.
But the other one
takes place in 1983.
Yeah. Well, it goes back, yeah. And then the one that I'm also interested in is the footnote on 358. Because it's talking about people immigrating to the United States. How'd you end up there? And it said, footnote, in 1965, the U.S. allowed a couple thousand Koreans to enter the country after decades of restriction law. And then Daisy says, I would like to point out that there are already several thousand Koreans in America by now adopted as babies.
Yeah.
And so I'm, with this idea of identity, where are you from, the blending of cultures, I'm curious how that, because that's very prominently inserted there at the end of that fact. Well, yes, that is a fact, but there's also this fact that you have to think about as well. So I'm curious how those two are going to play out as we move forward.
And Daisy was adopted, doesn't know who her parents are, which is also an echo of when Zhang, is that his name? The guy that worked on the game, when he talks to Soon and he's like, you could be my kid. I banged my employer and got her pregnant and never saw the kid and be about your age. Like, Daisy's another possibility for that. Because I think Daisy and Soon are about the same age too, if I'm keeping track of dates right.
Sure. I should have kept a map of all these people that started to
Loa talks about them being in school together and that she was at Gloat and then he was at Gloat right afterwards. So they would be contemporary enough. Yeah, there's I'm finishing proofing Once Upon Argentina, the Andres Newman book, and that would help there. I wish there was a table or a family chart. There's just a list of the names in the back, but every so often I'm like, great, who the fuck? Like, I was so confused. And I just like, it doesn't really matter. Names are whatever. I don't know. I don't know how anyone's related anymore. I just know the outlines. It's fine.
Why are you proofing that? I fixed everything in that. It's good to go.
Dude, there is at least a typo per page minimum.
Yeah.
Like a lot. I'm making a few changes too, but not too many. But anyways, yeah, all of our books got delayed. We can talk about that some other time, but it's coming out this fall, along with Sensitive Anatomy, and that'll be great. Anyways, off of that, do you want to go to the next section, the Amsterdam in the 80s?
Sure.
Which the title comes from this false concept that this model who Sang refers to as blue or maybe tan or something like that, and it's Gina. Turns out to be that her name is Gina, the relation to the 2333 bit Gina. What is her last name? Yu Yang or Grina Yu Yang, which is Grina is the name of that character in the tan gun. So you're sort of conflating those two things or together, or presumed to be in the tan gun. It's part of the whatever. And that he was wrong about that, but he refers to her being growing up in Amsterdam, which isn't true either. So Amsterdam in the 80s is a weird title for this, seeing as I'm like nothing about Amsterdam in the 80s is actually relevant or true. But this one involves Daisy reading tons of screenplays, one by Melinda that is called When in Rome, which sounds like a clusterfuck of epic proportions. And then another one by this that she meets at this party who writes about Ming Ree's Austrian wife, Francesca, and that one she actually thinks is quite good, and she replies to, and then he just goes missing, and then along the way she decides that maybe she should write a screenplay as well, since everyone's writing screenplays, and follows this guy using her wild wording techniques, of which more of those are mentioned in here. Follows this guy down the street, is trying to figure out who he is, gets on the the subway with him, is writing like who he could be, core being, question mark, question mark, question mark, so on and so forth. And he drops a thumb drive, which she gets, which then Sang tries to open, says you have to download this program, but I wouldn't do that. There'd be malware, blah, blah, blah. She downloads it. And what pops up is a file called Echo SBDD KPG, which I presume would be the dreams that we're reading, which is the manuscript that was given to Soon at the beginning of the party via Daisy.
Yes. I'm not a tech person, but are there file names that end in .kpg?
No. Oh, no. It doesn't say it's .kpg. It's echo_SBDD_KPG. Period.
Oh, got it. Okay. I thought it was like a .kpg thing. Okay, cool.
No, and there are fucking weirdo programs that you have to download to open certain files. I know that one. And also quite aware that the malware part can come along with that.
What I found really funny about, I guess, a complete side doesn't really matter, but that the manuscript, or sorry, not the manuscript, but the screenplay is 300 pages, I think it was. And like the rule of thumb with a screenplay is that one page is 1 minute.
Oh yeah.
Like a 5 hour 5 hour movie.
That's insane. It's just like it's Killers of the Flower Moon.
There you go. I haven't seen that. Have you? I don't have a weekend to.
No, I'll watch it when it comes out on somewhere where I can stop it and like pass some other time. Not 3.5 hours. I can't sit in a movie theater for like an hour and a half without getting really antsy.
The Irishman was the same way. I didn't watch. I think I watched about 4 hours of The Irishman. I got about halfway through, and then I didn't finish it. But
if you split it up into five episodes, I'll binge it.
Yeah,
no problem. No questions asked. I'll be all over Echo.
Remember the good old days when movies were like 100 minutes long?
Yeah.
Oh man, that was the good old days.
We went and I thank God we went and saw. I took Alex to see Migration at the movie theater, and as that was going, I was like, this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And if this is like 2 hours of this shitty ass animation, I'm gonna lose my mind. I think it was like an hour 14 or something, just barely cracked that. And I was like, thank God you guys pulled out when you needed to pull out. Like, good for your pullout game is strong, Migration. Anyway, so this section's fun to read too.
This is a great setup section because I think it provides more questions than it does answers, and it kind of, cliffhanger. Cool. What is she going to do with the information she gets?
Yeah. And like mysterious people pass in and out again. Like this guy appears. I love the characterizations in this one too. Like of what's her name's book, of Melinda's screenplay. She's like, part of me thinks there are too many characters. Melinda says. Daisy nods. There are far too many with names that sound alike. Molly and Sally, Carson and Carter. There's a Rachel and a Rachel. Something Daisy untangled on the second read. It's just so beautiful. Also, this paragraph is just wonderful. When the end of When in Rome is a speech about artisanal sherry being present for others and the charms of Brooklyn. The monologue is unleashed by a character named Milton. Who? Daisy suspects he's really Molly or Rachel, victim of an abandoned search and replace. It's definitely interesting to hear how sherry making went from a cottage industry to a corporate concern in just 9 months, the time it takes for Rachel, without an A, to conceive and give birth to her daughter, Hunter. But maybe the sherry stuff would have worked better as a blog post. It's overall fantastic.
There's some like just wonderful, concrete details in this section. Daisy takes When in Rome out of her bag. Melinda opens it like a mom checking a diaper.
Yeah, that's such a good line. That's such a good line.
Walking to 6th Avenue as a Japanese hipster wearing a neck brace. And then we go down a little bit further. It's not a brace she sees, but one of those inflatable pillows for long flights. Fashion statement or narcolepsy precaution. Perhaps isn't a hipster at all, but simply a bum.
I love that. This part is funny.
Yeah.
It's very funny. And she works at a place called Gazebo, at a magazine called Gazebo, about gazebos, which is great. Copy editing. articles about gazebos. Just brilliant.
I was trying to remember. It has nothing to do with this. Isn't there a Raymond Carver story called Gazebo?
I feel like there is. Oh, it's called. There's Cathedral, obviously, but
yeah, I thought there was one Gazebo, but I can't remember.
I don't know.
I haven't been in school in a long time, so
yeah, same. This is my line of the week to jump ahead and give it its due. This is important. Is in the ladies' room, a stall had graffiti that read "Translation is a long con."
I knew you were going to do that, and I thought for sure. I haven't had a chance to play the games with it, but I feel like that's an anagram.
Oh,
it just feels and reads like an anagram. I don't know if you have like something to punch in decoding anagrams.
Yep.
But while you do that, I'll give you my line of the week. I just thought with all the political stuff going on, it's hard not to think about it. So just take this out of context. This is a hilarious line by Ed Park. What ego? The elections were rigged, certainly. Rigged elections.
Yep, exactly. Well, the thing that I use won't let me use all the letters, but translation becomes anti-rational and nationalists.
There you go.
And then let's see what happens with long con. None of those do deck. Log on? No, I don't know. But that would be interesting. I mean, that wouldn't be shocking if that's true.
It feels like with the way things have been going and the way he's been setting things up, it feels like that has to be. I shouldn't say has to be, but it's there for something.
And Mercy Ping shows up here too, just to be clear. She was in the last section and this section, so she's becoming more featured. But yeah, then the other one was Daisy goes into the stall and writes translation is a long con on the wall. She would still love to know what it means, which I think hints towards what you're saying, that like, and she becomes a translator. There we go. She's part of the long con now.
Terrible idea.
Don't do it.
With that line of the week, I was just kind of joking around about elections being rigged. But very seriously, when you look up above that, it says, what led to Rhee stepping down? Don't you know all this? Laughs. I already left the country long before 1960. Tell me your impression then. South Korea's constitution only allowed 2 terms, but Rhee changed it so we could have a 3rd and then a 4th. After all, FDR got 4, and so should he.
Yep.
It's just like that idea of like letting outside influences corrupt and destroy things that might have a possibility to flower into something good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that's kind of hidden in there.
It's true. I do like that part. I like that aspect a lot too. And it is like that's another of like the whole political scene in South Korea at that point in time is something that I was not fully aware of. So hearing like that he changed that and then was ousted and how that happened is like both informative and told in an interesting way. But anyways, I don't know if there's anything else from this. The Vik is an interesting, or Vic, I guess, however it is interesting character that I don't know what their role is exactly either.
Yeah. What do you think? Oh, I wonder what this old Zippo is that she has as well.
Yeah.
Or is a shiny silver brick of some sort. An old Zippo? Older than her. Is it Mercy's?
Yep. K, G, and then the puncture from the wound from the stabbing or attempted stabbing.
There we go.
Oh, fun. New York Review of Boobs. Merchandise. We could merch that shit. Or Ed could. Or the New York Review of Books could.
It's probably a real thing. I'll have to look that up as well.
I didn't look. I thought of looking it up, and I was like, I'm going to go down a road that I'm not alone enough for. This is private time searching. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else from this one I was going to talk about. I think everything I was marked, I went through in the introduction.
Cool. Well, where are we going to next?
That's what I was just trying to find. I think it goes up to page 450. And this one's one that this is choppy because there's no good break here between the last. It's a penultimate episode is next week, and then the final one, and there's no good breaking point once it gets into Dream 5. So we'll go through page 450 through up to number 39 of that section of the dreams, but we get the sins section, October UBU, and then it goes right into Dream 5, 1919 through the present. And we read basically like a third or a half of that section, which is the section, by the way, that will end the book. So there's nothing after this last dream. Everything that we've had up till now with the other characters and all that is over after that, except unless they show up in the dream part. But the dream part is there. So which is interesting too, as like a way of like what to do structurally when you're ending a book like this with all these characters that we're sort of half invested or fully invested in, depending on the number of times they've appeared and where they are, that they're just kind of like now going to be gone. Mm-hmm. So, and like it defies some of that like traditional way of wrapping everyone up or giving everyone like their little silver bow for who they were as a character or what kind of journey they went on. All that stuff is not really there, which I think is great too.
Yeah.
But anyways, anything else you want to plug or recommend or mention?
Just free open elections, and
it is going to be a shit show.
I would love for Korea to have more than 3 food items, if possible. Food Network, can you please?
It was on in the bar with the hamburger. So that's where they had that show with the Guy Fieri and the running around the supermarket to make random shit. I was like, I never watched the Food Network, but I wonder if it's entertaining. I
can tell you this. So there's only three food items in Korean cuisine. And then if you're remodeling your home, there's only shiplap and barn doors is so.
I like that. There was a
modern farmhouse. That's it. There's nothing else.
Is one of these the Bar Rescue? Do one of these networks host Bar Rescue?
I don't know. Probably.
I don't know. I heard
that sounds like that sounds like True TV or something.
It's one of those where it goes in and everything's all fucked up, and the owner is like an alcoholic with abusive problems, and the guy's like in 2 days like fixes the world. It's like now your soul is healed and your bar is ready to be reopened. I don't know. Sounds like life. All right. Anyways, next week, till then, rate, review, tell your friends, listen, and past episodes, buy the book, buy open letter books, do all the fun stuff. And we'll see you next week with a big bowl of bibimbap for you.
Put that goju gang on the eggs.